internet. Hello everyone, we are live again with the Bootcamp 2020. Today we are going to cover AWS Lambda Layers and we'll see how we can implement them. Sajja, do you want to add anything before we move to Huma?
Yes. Uh, Lambda is basically a computing construct in AWS. In normal, for example, if you are using EC2 or you are using containers, you can have a lot of different functionality, different libraries. In Lambda Layer, we have evolved two new concepts. One is the concept of layer, which is running in the same runtime, and one is the concept recently introduced concept of extensions, which has a different runtime. Today we are going to start covering the Lambda layer, which runs in the same runtime. So therefore, let's move on, Zeeshan. Let's move on to, I think, Huma, and she can. Yes. Huma, you can start.
Okay, so Huma will just. Yes.
I think she can't hear us.
Shall I begin?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what are Lambda layers? Lambda layers are zip archive for your library's custom code. Let me show you an image. Okay. So I have three functions: function 1, 2, and 3. And
we can't see your picture. You have not shared. You have not shared your screen.
It says I've done. Okay. Now you can see.
I guess it's coming.
I'm not sure what's wrong. I'm doing share screen.
Just a moment. It might be taking time to coming.
Is it shared?
No, still not. Why don't you go ahead without the screen sharing?
Can you see in the screen now?
No, we cannot.
Yeah.
Just a moment. Wait a while. Do not remove it. Wait a moment. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It's coming up now.
It seems today internet is very slow.
Yes.
So do let me know when you can see.
Yes, we can see now.
Okay. So I have three Lambda functions, function 1, 2, and 3. Actually, I couldn't hear what Zia said, so I'm progressing what I have to say. And I have module 1, 2, and 3, my libraries, and surprisingly, all three of them are using the same library and modules. So instead of having them repetitively in all three functions, what I can do is I can extract those libraries and modules and use them in layers. Either I can make three different layers for three different libraries, or I can make them up in one layer. And all I have to do is to reference my functions to use those layers. Okay, now let's see how we will do that differently in our code. This is our code. All this stack has is a simple Lambda function, and this Lambda function is taking code from Lambda. Let's see what my function has in it. I'm importing Axios, a library, and all this function is doing is making a HTTP GET request on JSON placeholder to fetch one to-do out of so many to-dos, and then it will output the result. In order to use Axios, I'll go within the Lambda. I will initialize an npm package and I'll install Axios. For maybe one or two library, it will work, but for larger libraries, I will have to zip up this Lambda folder. And then instead of deploying Lambda folder, or I will have to deploy that zip folder. With layers, I do not have to mention or include these libraries without my Lambda within my Lambda, so I won't be needing that. So what I will do is I will delete them. Now my function doesn't have any dependency or package, and in order to use layers, what I will do is I'll introduce this. And just like Lambda, I have to mention that where my code is. Same goes with Lambda. I'll mention where my code is. Now, I'm labeling it Lambda layer. I'll have to make up this folder. So I'll create a new folder. Okay, now there is one convention I have to follow, is that within this Lambda layer, I'll have to make a folder called Node.js. Since I'm using Node.js, this is a convention I have to follow. If I would have been using Python, I would require to make a folder with name Python. So I'll make Node.js. And inside this Node.js, I will install my dependencies. And after initializing npm package, let me move to that. Why is it not working? Now within this folder, I will initialize a new package, npm package. Now I'm done with initializing my package. I will install Axios. So now my Lambda layer folder has those dependencies. Now the only change I need to do with my function is I have to mention the layers. Since I can give up to 5 layers, so this would be an array, and I'll mention my layer. All set to deploy, and this code will actually work fine. This is how we use layer. Simple example of using layer. I'm not deploying it yet because of the internet connectivity issue, and let's move on to Varis so that he can explain us step 2, or maybe Sir Zeeshan. Yes, sir, done with my part. Sir, we can't hear you. You are mute.
Zeeshan, you are muted. Please unmute your mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So let me first share my screen. Okay. So very first example which Huma has explained us, and what we need to do for the to create a lambda function. So at the very first instance, what we need to understand is whenever we are creating a lambda function is in a JavaScript or a code piece of code. When the piece of code run some business logic or some execution, it depends on some libraries or any other modules or any other code. So whenever you want to use that other libraries, what you have to do is you have to include that particular set of code inside your uh, lambda functions bundle, so that when you deploy your lambda function, all the dependencies will go with your lambda function. let's say uh, let's say this is a very simple and basic project. It has nothing. Let me create a lambda folder, and in that lambda folder, if I create index.ps, sync. Now here what I can do is, for the very simple example, I can return hello world, but I have whole world over here which can be done. I can use any third-party libraries or any other libraries. Up till now, in our previous examples, what we were doing is we were using the AWS SDKs libraries, which are pre-built available to Lambda function in the AWS environment. So you do not have to worry about the node modules and libraries and everything else. But if I wanted to use a HTTP library which can fetch, which can call a URL and get some data from the URL called Axios. So if I want to use Axios library here, so what I have to do is first I have to install that library into my project, and that installation should not be in this package JSON, because that's the separate package JSON file. So if you want to use any third-party libraries, what you have to do is you have to go to this lambda function. Let's say, okay, so just a moment. There is electricity breakdown. Okay, I'll have to remove my camera.
Doesn't matter.
Uh, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Okay. So what I was saying, that if I wanted to work with any third-party library, then I have to install that library into my project. So in the Lambda folder, so let's say go to the Lambda, and inside that Lambda folder, what I have to do is I have to install, like, in a way, let's say npm init first, so that it can understand the node modules and everything. And then I have to, so what it will do is it will create a package JSON inside the folder of Lambda, and then I'll call npm install Axios. Okay, so once I'm done with this, what it will happen is there is a node module folder inside my Lambda folder, and now I can use this Axios code, and I can call const result. Okay, axios.get. And what we can do is we can use a placeholder JavaScript JSON placeholder. So it will give us a fake APIs so that we can call them. I'll pick this API, paste it over here, and we'll send result.data to the client. Now, what we need to understand is that this is the one Lambda function, and that Lambda function will go with these node modules on the AWS. If you have 4 Lambda functions, so your 4 Lambda function will deploy with separate node modules, and they all acquire the separate memory, and they will whenever you deploy each of your Lambda function acquire the space one. Another thing is, if I have my own library, which is, let's say, user authentication, and all my Lambda function needs to call that code. Again, what you need to important is for us is ts index.ts is a one Lambda function. If I create another function auth.ts, that's a separate Lambda function. Now, if you want to use a particular code or library in 2 Lambda function, or for sake of argument in your 20, 30, or 40 Lambda function, that means that particular piece of code should be available in all those 30 Lambda functions. At this moment, we are doing everything in the same folder, so we'll not see the difference. Otherwise, every Lambda function is a separate package, is a separate zip folder, and it will deploy the separately. So your all the function will deploy separately, and the code which you want to run in all the function needs to be, if you want to change anything in that particular function, that means it needs to be updated on all those functions. So that's why what Lambda layers, let me just show this as a let me just delete it for a while. And this is our Lambda function. If I'll go over here and call Lambda fn, I have to install meanwhile, let me import okay, so the installation is done. I'll call lambda dot function. Okay, I installed it in the wrong folder. AWS Lambda, and then I'll call We'll mention the package name. Handler. This will be our index dot handler. Runtime will be our lambda dot. Now, once we deploy this lambda function, it will package this lambda folder because we are mentioning this package. So it will deploy, zip this complete lambda package. If, as we have seen multiple examples, if we have 2, 3, 4, or 5 lambda function inside this single lambda folder, and we create a lambda function like this for the second lambda function, that means we are sending all the code in all the functions, which is not mandatory. So we have to do is what we have to do is we have to create a separate folder for each lambda function, so that all the code should not go for every function. So this function will have all the lambda code. So you have a 10 lambda function. This function will have all the lambda files, but working with only one. This function will have all the files of lambda function, but will be working with the one. So you have to do it separately. So you will be creating a separate folder for each lambda function. It will be have a separate node modules. It will have separate. So then you have a library which is your own library, auth library, which will be used inside all function. So what you have to do is you have to include all those libraries dependencies in all the lambda function, and all the lambda function will gets deployed with these dependencies. What lambda layer does is, for us, lambda layer reduce this overhead of creating the increased size because of the dependencies. So we have 4, 5, or 6 dependencies. So instead of uh, creating a big package for particular lambda function, you will have a single layer, lambda layer, which you can attach to all your functions. What will happen is that lambda layer will be added to your runtime environment of your function, but it will not be a deployment part of your package. And if you change at a single location only for the code inside the lambda layer, and you do not have to worry about, you just deploy that layer, and all your function which will be using that layer will be updated. So for that, I'm removing this. At this moment, this is the exactly same portion which Huma has showed us. So let's say lambda dot layer version, and what is here, what we can do is we can specify code which will specify the layer over here from, and then whatever the name you want to give to the layers. So I'll say lambda uh, layers slash axios, and then I'll say compatible runtime. So you can specify which runtime is compatible. So because this layer can be added to multiple functions, so might be your one lambda function will have a Node.js 12 version or different runtime version. So if you have a multiple different type of lambda function which is running on different runtimes, so you can specify multiple runtime. At this moment, we do not have such issue, so we can ignore this, but by default it will use. So we can specify this, like, so you can specify multiple runtimes. Now, as Uma mentioned, so we need a layer folder. So instead of doing this node module here, what we can do is we'll create a folder named lambda layers, lambda layers. Inside that lambda layers, we will create a folder axios, which I have mentioned over here. So it does not necessary to have a name exactly like my library. Let's say I'm making it my lib. So it will be my lib, and inside that lib, as Uma mentioned, that the requirement of Lambda layers is if you are working with Node.js, so you must have a Node.js folder inside your layer function, so that it's a dependency because it will extract it as it is inside your runtime environment. So what we have to do is now we have to create a folder in Node.js, and inside that Node.js folder we'll use our dependencies. So for the moment, what I'm doing is let me remove this node module, remove this package JSON and package log JSON. So now our Lambda function is again simple folder, and it has a one index.js. Inside this node.js, what I'll do is node.js folder here. I will create npm init, and then I'll say npm install axios. So we have this Lambda layer, it has this mylib node.js folder, and inside that we have a node module and packages. Now we have created a separate layer. It has nothing, there is no other code but just a libraries. What we can do now is in this Lambda function, we can still call axios, but at the runtime, at the compile time, it will give us an error. So I'll show you the solution for this as well. At this moment, I'm making it simple, but I'll explain you the other way for this as well. Wire axios, and then we call, so this call will remain the same except for the first line. I'll show the solution for this as well. So at this moment, this Lambda function does not have dependency with it, but it has a dependency in a separate layer file. Okay, fortunately power is back quite early. Okay, now what I have to do is I have to add this layer over here and mention Lambda layer. So this, in this way, what we are doing is we have created Lambda function as we have done quite many times. So that's not new for us. That is giving me some error. The only difference is we have created another kind of a function which is called a layer. We have specified its folder, we have specified its runtime environment, and inside our function we have mentioned that we are using this layer. So this layer will be added over here. So when our Lambda function will be deployed, layer will be deployed separately, Lambda function will be deployed separately, and whenever your function will be run, the code of this layer will be
Zeeshan, we lost your voice. Zeeshan, we lost your voice. Let me call you.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. We lost your voice.
uh, at what point?
About a minute back when you were talking about Lambda
Okay.
layers.
Okay, so what I was saying that, so now we have a two piece of code, a Lambda function and a Lambda layer. They are deployed separately. So there will be a separate Lambda layer and there will be a separate Lambda function. But Lambda function saying that I'm using this lambda layer. So in this way, if we create a 10, 20 or 30 lambda functions, all that lambda function will be referring to them same layer. In that way, our deployment will be simple. It will not contain an excessive library in each lambda function. It will reduce the storage size on your AWS, because there is a limit of storage of all the lambda function, which is 75 GB, good enough for even a big project. But still there is a, so it will not use the storage. Now once we run this lambda function, this layer will be added to this lambda function. That means whatever in this layer will be part of our lambda function. Because of that, when we call the axios.get, it will work. Why? Because the code of layer will be available inside the runtime environment of our lambda function. So let me just try to run it now. Okay, CDK deploy. Okay, so meanwhile it's installing. We will have lambda function here, so it's running, it's in progress. So all the functions will be listed here and all the layers will be listed here. So layer is been deployed, function is still, so function is also available. So okay, so the deployment is done. Now the good thing is, if you go to the layer and see, it will show you environment, compatible environment, and the version, and nothing else. In function, we'll have this function, and you see at this moment we have no node module inside here. Otherwise, we have to deploy the node modules as well with this lambda function. Okay, so I'll run test this lambda function, and you can see the output. So there is nothing special in this output. We have just created the lambda function, and we just call the Axios library. By using the Axios library, we just call an API to get the result. So there is nothing special. But what's the difference is, this Axios library is not part of our lambda function package. Our lambda function package will have only these functions. Otherwise, before this lambda layer, when I have created in it inside lambda folder, so you would have seen the node module folder over here. Now the benefit is, we can have 2, 3 or 4 libraries inside our lambda layer. So what I can do is, in node.js folder, I can also call npm install. Let me just recall the name of random generator. Let's say we want to use another library. Okay, just let's use this library. We just don't have to do anything else. So npm install name creator. So now this layer has name creator as well. So all the libraries which you want to use across your Lambda functions, you can specify those libraries inside a single layer, and then you can see the package.json also has this library, and then inside your Lambda function you just have to call, let me just say, generate, and then you can call generate dash. This way, the benefit is your reduced code dependencies will be at single place. But what you need to understand is the single Lambda function can have only 250 meg of size total. So if you have a 5 layer, each layer has 100 of dependencies inside it, and all those dependencies will be counted towards the size of your Lambda function. So total layers and your Lambda function code should not exceed the 250 MB of size. The concept of Lambda function is that it has only limited uh, libraries, limited resources. That's why it's beneficial. Otherwise, if you will be adding all these libraries inside a single Lambda function, then you are not using Lambda function correctly. So at this moment, there's the simple implementation that we'll create a Lambda function as simple. We'll create a layer and we'll use that layer inside our Lambda function. That's the simple implementation. Now what we can do is we want to use our library, my own library, my own implementation of my own functionality, and I want to use that functionality as a layer into my Lambda function. Why? Because I have 4, 5, or 10 Lambda function, and whenever Lambda function receives some request, what I want to do is I want to verify that request first. So kind of a authorization. So I want you to do that authorization inside my Lambda function, all the Lambda function. If I have, I'll have, what I have to do is, if I will not be using Lambda layers, then I have to include that code inside every Lambda function, which will have two problems. Each Lambda function will have a bigger size relatively, and once I have to make any change to my authorization code, I have to copy paste that code into all the Lambda functions, or I have to write some process that whenever it will try to deploy it, just copy that code into the Lambda function. So that's a difficult part. So what we can do is, inside this Lambda layer, at this moment we have created just one folder with name lib. So what I can do inside this layer folder, I'll create auth. I have created the folder name auth, and inside that auth folder, I'm creating auth.ps. Now, if I wanted to use any external library, then I have to create Node.js folder so that I can use Node modules inside it. If I do not want to use the external library, then at this moment I don't need it. So let's see, uh, export or let's say authorize equals to, for now I'm just sending you user is authorized. So I'm not doing anything else at this moment, just to show you what we have to do now. So in this auth folder, we have a one auth.ts. That's a separate Lambda layer. Now in our stack, what we have to do is we have to create another Lambda layer here. Lambda auth layer, and we have to change name Lambda auth layer. And here Lambda layers, instead of my lib, I have to say auth because that's a separate folder. You should do this same logic for each of your Lambda function. At this moment, up till now, we have just specified the complete folder name. So it will be, this Lambda function will have everything inside this folder. So you should avoid this practice. Lambda layer slash auth. Now we have a two runtime and two layers. And what I can do is I can specify this layer, Lambda auth layer. Now this function will have two Lambda layers. One is for the dependency, another one is for the for my own library. Now you can understand, you can imagine that if I have another 2, 3, or 4 Lambda function, let's say there is another Lambda function in index name index 2, it's inside another folder, and the benefit is I can just specify those layers. So both of these Lambda function are using these layers, so I do not have to pass on this code into every folder. I do not have to deploy this folder with every Lambda function. It will be available because of the layers. So at this moment, I'm just commenting out. Now, inside a Lambda function, what we wanted to do is we want to use this auth function, auth.ts. So for that, because inside this Lambda function, we cannot call require directly. Let's say I want to call auth equals to require, and if I'll say slash Lambda layer slash auth slash auth, this will not work. Why? Because this folder will be deployed as Lambda function. This is a separate layer. It will be deployed separately, and there will be nothing Lambda named Lambda layer with this Lambda function. So this will not work. If you wanted to use your library inside your Lambda function, the layer which you have deployed. So for that, you need to understand that what runtime environment does is all of your layer will be extracted into the runtime environment and placed on a location of your Lambda function called a folder name slash opt. So what we'll have to do is we have to do like this, or slash opt or slash opt. It's if you understand the environment of a Linux directory structure, so it's an option folder inside the Linux environment, and so your Lambda function is also deployed on such particular environment. So your auth library, your Lambda function will be inside an environment. That environment has a directory name slash opt, and all of your layers will be inside that opt folder. So now you can call this auth, and this will return us this where is auth, this authorized function. So it will return an object, and we'll call this authorized function. So what I have to do is I have to let me return multiple values. Data and auth info. So at this moment it has nothing but just, so I'll call the auth dot authorize. So you need to understand that this library will not be a part of your Lambda function while it's deploying, because it will be part of a layers. Now
Zeeshan,
let's
can
just,
you compare how you imported Axios compared to the auth library? Could you revise it?
yes. So for the Axios, what we did is, because it's in a what you call an npm library, it's an npm library, it's not an what you say our created folder, our created JavaScript files. So whenever we are using our files, we do not call it like a standard npm library. If our project is in a standard npm library, importing that is a separate thing. So when we use the standard library using the npm, so whatever we have inside this mylib node.js, so we have two or three or four libraries. So at this moment we have this Axios library and name create library. When we want to use this library inside our Lambda function, we'll use it like require Axios. So it will be what you need to understand is this whole folder, my lib node.js folder, will be part of your Lambda environment. So it's like your local node modules, and it has the Axios. That's why you can call it like whenever we call the standard npm library. But your own folder, your own JavaScript files, which you have used, but you have put it in the separate Lambda layers. They are not part of npm. They will not be something like and node modules. They will be not inside something like node modules. So that's why what you have to do is you have to call /opt and slash your name of your folder, which is your layer. So what opt is basically, whenever your layer become a part of your, whenever your Lambda function runs inside your runtime environment, AWS adds all your layers. What does adding means? Adding means is they put the code, and they put code inside the opt folder. So this auth folder will go inside this opt folder when your Lambda function is running on AWS environment. So that's how you, when you have a normal library, and which is npm library, so you call it with the only name. But when you call it with the your custom code, then you have to call like this /opt/ your folder name.
But where did you place Axios,
Okay, so I
Zeeshan?
didn't place Axios anywhere. I just, yes, can you hear me?
Where did you? Sorry, I just saying. Where did you place it in Axios in your in my list folder? You just uh, uh,
I just call the npm install, and it's part of dependencies.
okay, okay,
it's it's
okay,
part of dependencies. So this node module will go in opt folder, so it will be
uh,
available to your Lambda function.
okay, okay, okay.
So every layer will go over there. For no for the libraries which are coming from node modules, the npm libraries, we do not have to specify the opt, because they are standard way of we have a standard way of calling them for all the npm libraries. Our code, it is not part of npm, it is not part of node module. So that's why we have to call it specifically by specifying the opt/auth.
And your auth does not have to be in a Node.js directory, or it has to be.
No, it does not have to be in this.
Yes.
If my auth.ts is using some external library, let's say my auth.ts is using uh, uh, xyz library to run something, then I have to create a node.js folder over here like this, node.js, and inside that node.js I have to just a moment, cd auth Node.js, and I have to use the same process which we did for the library. So I have to call npm init. Once I'll do npm init, it will initialize this folder. Let me show you. I'll delete it. No problem. So as you can see, we have auth folder. it has Node.js folder, it has auth.ts, and inside that Node.js, I'll call npm install. Um, just pick one more unique name generator. Okay, now this node module is part of this auth folders. If I need that external folder, now I can call this const random equals to while this way. Only if I need to use, definitely if I'm using my custom code, I might be needing few libraries. So that's when it's required. So you can use it this way. So at this moment, I'm just removing so that I can show you how we'll be processing. Uh, okay, so now we have auth.ts, we have mylib, which has Axios and random generator, and we have this lambda function, and this lambda function is calling auth here auth, and we will calling this auth.authorize function just to test. Okay, so in normal case, if you are not using the CDK, then you have to zip your lambda function and upload on your AWS environment. Same goes for the layers. You have to zip your layer and upload to your layer if you are using the console environment. But as we are using the CDK, CDK does it for us. Okay, it's deployed. Let's still you can see we have just the index.ts file. There is no code related to the succeed, and you can see auth info has empty object. Call is not failed. That's the good thing, but auth, I have to see ts certain user is authorized and documents. So let me just put have added inside the layers. Yes. Okay, meanwhile is deploying. One thing which we need to understand, otherwise we are done with these layers, how we will be using. The important thing is when you are using Axios over here with the require, you will not have what you say IntelliSense. So you cannot call the Axios.get Axios dot. There is no IntelliSense available because this is not part of our Lambda functions node module area. It's available separately. So in that case, you will not be able to use your IDE environment quite well because of the unavailability inside the IntelliSense, all the functions. So we have, you can do it, you have two options. Inside this Lambda function, create npm init and install your dependencies in dev environment. So whatever you install in the as a dev dependency, it will not go into the production. I'll show you. Let me just, it's done. So I'll show you. Okay, it's returning a promise and I have not call it as a promise. It's your spot. There is no IntelliSense available because it's returning a promise and I have not call it as a promise. Your spot. There is no IntelliSense available because it's returning a promise and I have not call it as a promise. I'm hearing myself again and again. Are you hearing me clearly?
Yes. Now, sorry, it was my mistake. Now it is corrected.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, so I just forget to provide the await because this auth is an async function, so we have to specify await, so it will work fine now. So let me just unbuild, deploy it. Okay, it's deployed now. Okay, so now you can see user is authorized. We are receiving a proper information from our layer. You can see we have just created. If you see the structure of our application, there's lib, which has our stack. It has two layers and a lambda function. We have a lambda layers in which we have a two layers. One is auth, which is our custom code. Another is uh, only for dependencies. We can manage it in our way, how we want to manage it. And there is a lambda function folder which has lambda, and it is using a two external libraries, which is Axios and name creator, and it is using a another custom library, which is which we have developed or which we have created here. So if for standard npm libraries, we just call it like a require, and for the our custom code, which is inside library, we have to call /opt/auth. So all the layers, sorry, will be available inside our Lambda functions runtime environment and inside the OPT folder. So whatever the information you are going to call, it will be available over here. So that's a simple implementation of when you're using the layers and if you are using the custom code. One last thing, and we are done, which is, as I have mentioned, that I wanted to use IntelliSense for my external libraries. So for that, either you can use this package JSON, which is not a good idea. What you can do is inside your Lambda folder, which will be parent folder of your all Lambda folders. What you can do here, all npm init. So it will create the package JSON file over here. And as we all know that if we want to add some dependency which should remain dev dependency, that means it will only available in development environment but not in a production environment. So we call it npm install axios -save -dev. What it will do is it will not add this library inside the normal dependency, but it will add in dev dependency. So you can see this. So whenever we are going to deploy our Lambda function, these dev dependencies will not go into the production. It will not go to the AWS environment. But the benefit is now what we can do is I can go and call import Axios from Axios. And now I can call axios.get URL and everything. So for my external library, this will be very helpful for me to use the IntelliSense, so I can see whatever the function is, and it will not be part of our code when it is deployed, so we can use it quite easily. So
Zeeshan, can we do it
that's
for internal dependency?
Can we
do it for the internal code, internal layer?
Basically, I have tried, but I was not succeed. I'm still in checking that how can I do this for this, because for internal dependency, I have to include that somehow into my package.json. Otherwise, it will not be available. It is for the npm modules external libraries. So how we can do for the internal library, I don't know. There is only one way. Yes, there is a one way. If I can create this type of type if I generate the TDS, and then I can include the TDS in my npm. So definitely I have to have somehow it part of the npm. Then I can do this. At this moment, that's what I have learned till.
Okay, thank you. Everybody, see you in the next class. Bye bye.
Okay, so okay, bye everyone.